So the one thing I hear people say and have been saying for a long time is that Democrats suck at messaging. And there's been so much debate on our side of the aisle as to how we should go about it. And there's been some people who have split off into camps and ended up throwing rocks back and forth at each other. And I've never thought that that was productive. I never thought that attitude had anything helpful for the cause. I think right now more than ever, people like us have to stick together. And we have to take whatever differences we have and set them aside and realize that we're up against one of the most radical presidencies in history. And they're not leading us into a constitutional crisis. We're right there slap dead in the middle of one. And we have got to come together and get our message out there and stay on point and stay focused on the issues at hand. So shout out to the Meidas Touch Network, who had what I thought was a brilliant idea. And they had a Democratic governor virtual town hall meeting. Ben Meiselas sat down with 4 Democratic governors to discuss Trump's disastrous 100 days. He sat down with J.D. Pritzker from Illinois, Tim Walz from Minnesota, Maura Healey from Massachusetts, and Kathy Hochul from New York, and they all talked about Trump's first 100 days and the issues that we're now facing. And I thought it was really good. I highly encourage everyone to go watch it. It was a live video on Meidas Touch, so if you go to their live videos, it's Dem Governor Town Hall on Trump's 100 days. Before we roll some of the clips of these governors talking about what's important and their reaction to Trump's 100 days, don't worry, I'm not going to play clips from Trump and his administration. But anytime that Trump and his administration all gather in a room and they all sit around that big table in a circle and Elon's over there wearing the 2 hats and, fangirling out, they all just sit and absolutely blow Trump. They just sit and just heap their praise upon Trump. They are in an alternate reality. What you're seeing when you see that, you're seeing Jonestown. If you never watched those documentaries, if you never fully understood the Manson family, you're seeing it without the LSD. That's the only difference between it. At least the Manson family was on drugs. But if you sit back and you watch Trump and his administration, they just do nothing but heap praise upon him. You're the greatest thing since sliced bread. We've had the greatest 100 days. It was the greatest 97th day of my life. It's some of the most nauseating stuff that you'll ever see. But we're not here to talk about that today. We're here to talk about those of us who do live in the real world. And I want to start right here with Illinois Governor Pritzker, because he's so right in what he has to say here. Now's the time for everyone to speak up. Take a look.
Let's start with it's time to fight. Everybody has to get up, stand up, speak out, show up. And if you can't go somewhere to do that, well, go online and make sure you're speaking up and showing up online. And if you can't do that, how about calling your congressperson, your senator, to make your voice heard? Everybody has got to stand up for not only what's best for themselves and their families, but also their neighbors and their friends. And I'm seeing that. Here's the thing that I want to say to everybody. You should have a lot of hope, because I'm seeing Republicans and Democrats showing up to make their voices heard, to stand up for veterans who've lost their services, to stand up for those who are receiving Social Security, but whose Social Security offices are closing. And so they've got to show up in order to get their Social Security check. Medicaid is under attack. And I think everybody understands that if you're not on Medicaid, someone needs medical care, and they rely upon Medicaid. And I'm seeing families show up for other families. I'm seeing veterans show up for each other. And many of us who come from a military family are showing up for our veterans as well. So I want to say this is a moment when we have an opportunity to really stand up for each other. It's who we are as Americans. It's what we ought to be doing. And I'm, as much as I am challenged, and all of us are, by what Donald Trump and his gang in the White House are doing, I also see that the American people are standing up and getting the job done of making their voices heard. We're going to see a real momentum over the next few months and over the next year. And by November of 2026, we're going to take the Congress back because of everyone listening to this podcast and Americans all across the country.
For those of you that watch my channel every day, you know that every day I say, get out there, let your voices be heard, stand up, speak out, don't back down. And I understand that not everyone is able to go somewhere. So if you're not able to go somewhere, you can get online and you can let your voices be heard that way. And if you can't do that, I understand some people are in a position where they can't do that. So if you can't do that, you can call your congressperson, you can call your representatives. You can also privately share stories and raise awareness on the issues at hand with people if you're not in a position where you can do it publicly. I used to listen to, I still do, one of my favorite music podcasts, Cocaine and Rhinestones. If you're a fan of country music, I highly recommend that. But Tyler Mahan Coe that did that podcast would always say, just share it with one other person. If nothing else, you don't have to share it in your timeline, but if you'll just send this to one other person, then I would appreciate it. And that's how I feel about these serious issues out there. It's like, hey, maybe you're not in a position where you can throw it out there online and you may, end up losing a job for doing something like that. I get it. But you could pass that important story along to people who it would affect and people who would be willing to listen to it and hear it out. So there's other ways that we can still stand up and let our voices be heard. And of course, getting in that voting booth and inspiring more people to do that always helps. But now we're going to go to New York Governor Kathy Hochul, because what she talks about here is all the promises Trump made that he would do on day one, and it ain't happening. Take a look.
Importantly to me, what it's doing to the average family. And when their grocery bills are going to go up, despite Donald Trump's campaign promise over and over and over that on day one prices would go down, and instead they've gone up exponentially. I don't know how we can get away with that. So we're suffering. Our people are suffering. Our businesses are suffering. Our tourism industry is going to be flat on its back if we don't change this, because the Canadians who spend a lot of money in our country go to our little restaurants and our hotels and our attractions and go to Buffalo Bills games and go to Sabres games where I'm from. They're not coming because they're so angry at us for going to war with one of our best friends in the world. So it's not just the tariffs, the talk of tariffs, it's also the relationships that are forever severed, at least at this point.
You see, folks, we knew what was coming, and we tried to warn people. We tried to let them know that what Donald Trump was saying wasn't even realistic when he talked about ending the war in Ukraine as president-elect. We knew that was impossible. We tried to warn them. We knew that prices wouldn't come down on day one. There was no world in which that made sense. The only place talk like that makes sense is over with Donald Trump in his alternate reality. And that's where that he and his followers live, is just in a completely alternate reality. I think reality, though, is starting to sink in on more and more people. And I think we're all realizing and all understand that this administration is far worse than the first Trump administration. And that's because this go around, he just completely surrounded himself with loyalists and no one is qualified to do anything. But now we're going to go to the clip from Massachusetts Governor Maura Healey, because she points this out. This administration today is far worse than the first one. Take a look.
I was Attorney General for 2 terms. I was Attorney General during the Trump years, and we brought hundreds of lawsuits. And I can tell you that this administration is far worse than what we saw with Trump 1. And I think that's evidenced by the past 100 days. I mean, what we've seen here in Massachusetts, firing of doctors and nurses from our VA hospitals, denying veterans care, cuts to our research institutions, which mean cuts to those who are currently right now involved in the process of discovering cures and treatments for ALS and Alzheimer's and cancer. We've had clinical trials with people on them shut down in Massachusetts because of Donald Trump's cuts to NIH.
And every day I have to see a comment somewhere from a Trump supporter who says, well, the reason why you all are so upset as Elon is because he's finding the corruption. And we say, no, it's because he is the corruption, and he's actually going after people who are investigating him. And the cuts that he's making when he puts a post on X and says, wow, or interesting, and shares it out there to the world, it's not true. And the cuts that he's making is affecting everyday American people. And I know so many people who have lost their job, and it's funny now how that it's just crickets from some of them, because they can't believe this happened. And a lot of them have said, well, this isn't what I voted for. And the rest of us are going, yeah, it's exactly what you voted for. We tried to warn you. We didn't want this moment to come where we flexed at you. We really didn't. I know that MAGA absolutely gets off hard on flexing at other people, but I didn't want to be the one doing this. I didn't want to be the one sitting here saying that we told you so. It's not easy living in the real world. Sometimes I almost envy the ones that can just live in an alternate reality and think that everything is hunky dory, but it's not. And I saved Tim Walz for last. Definitely not least. I love the guy, love what he has to say, and I love how he just lives in the real world with the rest of us. Take a look.
Governor Walz, your assessment of Trump's first 100 days, and what are you doing in response?
Well, yeah, thank you, Ben, and to my fellow governors, I couldn't be more proud than to be with this folks that are taking that fight. Look, I don't think any of us are surprised. This is where Donald Trump ended up. It's what he said, and he's carrying those things out. I think for us here in Minnesota, my guidance to my team and to the administration and to folks who care, and that's a lot of folks taking to the streets. We protect the most vulnerable and we protect our gains. We have an opportunity to prove a different way of governing that improves lives, whether that's providing food for children or making sure our folks are covered with health care and have access to free college and some help owning homes. Those are the things that people are looking for. So look, Trump is a disaster, which we knew he would. I think it gives us an opportunity, and what you're seeing is people rising up and showing that there's a better way. We can govern with compassion. We can govern with a sense of vision and innovation, and we can govern effectively. So I think here in Minnesota, we're continuing to show that there's a better and a different way to do this. We collaborate with these governors that are on with me tonight and others across the country to ways that we can make sure that we're continuing to show as many people as that as possible. And so this thing's going to get a little bit bumpy, but I think you're seeing right now folks are turning out. I do want to give a huge shout out to, I got neighbors. These states are my neighbors, but our Canadian neighbors, they know that this is wrong. They stood up to it. It provides a lot of momentum coming out of the Wisconsin special Supreme Court election, and I think the mobilization that's happening out there. So it's 100 days of just crap. We've got 500 plus till the midterms, but the work has started. Folks know that, and I think they're looking to see folks stand in the breach and push back. So I'm glad to be with you, Ben. I want to give a thank you to folks who took time out of your busy lives to tune in tonight. We're all in this together, and I'm just glad you're here.
I agree with him wholeheartedly, and I truly do believe that we have to take care of our most vulnerable. We have to stand up for everyone. I really am of the belief that if they come for one of us, they've come for us all. So I think now more than ever, we just have to stick together and keep pushing forward. And like I've said so many times here on the channel, set our differences aside, realize we're not always going to agree on everything, but the one thing we do agree on is that Donald Trump and his administration is the most radical regime we've ever faced in our lifetime. And, me and my dad was talking the other day, and my dad said, do you think that you will ever see it in your lifetime? He said, I don't think I will. He said, do you think you will in your lifetime? And I said, honestly, Dad, I don't know if my grandson, who turns 3 this year, I don't know if he'll see it in his lifetime. And I'm not trying to be pessimistic. I'm not trying to bring down the room. But that is the damage that this first 100 days has already done. We knew it was going to be a disaster. We knew it was going to be bad, and it is. And to anyone who just wants to see Trump sit around in that big circle with his flock, and they just all sit and blow him and talk about how wonderful he is and how great he is, anytime I see that stuff, I just say to myself, it's truly sad. It's sad that people lives in such an alternate reality. I can't imagine being over there. I don't want to be over there. I want to live in the real world, and I want to fix real world problems. And I think we can do that if we come together. So again, shout out to Ben Meiselas, the Meidas Touch Network. I'm very proud to be a part of that network. And they're just such a great group of guys, and they got such a really good mind for how to message. So to everyone out there that says, Democrats can't message, I've always argued and said, no, we've been doing it. And it's good to see Democratic governors on a network like Meidas instead of giving their time to Fox News. Why go and let Hannity scream in your face? Why go and let Jesse Waters, sit there and smirk at you and make a joke out of it when you can go sit down with people that care and people that's going to help you to get your message out? I think, I hope and I'm sure we will see more of this, and I want to see more of this. I want to see more of these sort of virtual town halls and more messaging talking about the issues at hand, because the more people that gets hurt and the more people that gets affected by this administration, eventually these words that these governors are saying and we're all saying is going to start to ring true. So I truly do appreciate all of your support here on the channel. Let's see where we're at on our subscribers. We're We're growing every day, and I truly appreciate you. We're at 719,319 as I just refreshed my phone. I truly appreciate y'all for that. We'll make it to 1 million, I do believe, before the end of the year, and I just really appreciate everyone's support. If you like the kind of content I do, be sure and hit the subscribe button. Doesn't cost anything to do so. Also, if you ever do want to donate a few bucks, we have members only here on YouTube, and we have Patreon, where I've been going over there talking about other things. The other day I reviewed a Creedence Clearwater Revival album that I really loved, because sometimes I just have to take a break. I was a musician for 25 years of my life, and I did things one way, and I got so used to doing things that way. And then one day, the issues at hand were just more important than any of that. And I started talking. Now here we are. But there's days where it's like, let's just go back and talk about how good a Gibson sounds through Some people like the Gibson guitar through a Marshall. They do sound great. I kind of like the Gibsons through the Peavies, the way Skinner did it. And these days I play my Gibson through a Vox AC-15. So anyway, if you want to hear me talk that kind of stuff, the link is in the description of this video over on Patreon. And I truly do appreciate all of you. Let's keep getting the message out there, talking about the issues at hand, and never back down, folks. Don't ever back down.